then Sergeant Henderson told us that Lieutenant Teague was from Long Island, New York. Lieutenant Teague was not the only person who became upset during the study. One day I blurted out that if the security improvements were not made and we got attacked because of it, I was going to tell the American people about the study. Lieutenant Teague and Staff Sergeant Middleton both took an arm and carried me down the hall, then lectured me that I was in the military now, and if the army failed, you do not go and tell people. I explained that I was not talking about the people who were in the study because we were all trying to prevent any attack from happening, but about people within the government who might not make the security improvements. I was then dismissed from the study. About a week later, I got called to the unit's office where I was made to stand next to Lieutenant Teague while one of the DoD personnel gave me non-rescindable orders that if the World Trade Center Twin Towers was ever attacked in the manner in which we discussed in the study, I was to do everything I possibly could to get the information to the American people. Lieutenant Teague expanded on my orders later and explained to me what non-rescindable meant to my orders. It meant that no one could alter or change my orders. The President could not alter or change my orders. The U.S. Congress could not alter or change my orders. No one could alter or change my orders, not even me, by refusing to perform my orders. He explained that it did not matter what condition, medical condition, I was in. I was to do everything I could to get the information to the American people. It did not matter what situation, financial situation, I was in. I was to do everything I possibly could to get the information to the American people. The how I did this was left up to my discretion since there was no established plan to break media censorship, but I could not kill anyone to get media coverage. I had to get it another way. And these are the non-rescindable orders that I've been following since September 11, 2001, when the attack on the Twin Towers activated them. Shortly following my receiving my orders, Sergeant Riggs came to me in the hall and told me that the other participants had been told that someone at the Pentagon, Donald Rumsfeld, did not like that I had been given my orders but could not do anything about it since they were non-rescindable. But the other participants were threatened with retaliation against their wives and children if they were the first one to publicly reveal information about the study. He told me that he and the other guys discussed this and decided that if I could break the media censorship they were told was going to be put on this information, that they would come forward with their information about what they did in the study, but they had to put their wives' and children's lives first. We knew something was more important about this study than what we were originally told in the beginning, since there was no restriction on who we could talk to about the study when it began. Then having it changed to having their wives and children retaliated against by the Pentagon if they said anything about it. I contacted the International Legal Panel, who were assembled to write up the criminal charges against Tony Blair for using cluster bombs on civilians in Afghanistan, because they were looking for a way to connect Bush to Blair so he could also be charged as a co-conspirator, which is legal in the International Criminal Court, even though Democrat Bill Clinton kept the U.S. government out of the ICC, so he could not be held legally responsible for the war crimes and crimes against humanity that he and his Democratic political party administration committed. My 1976 U.S. military study information establishes a 25-year time period between when the study was conducted to when the attacks took place on September 11, 2001, where the U.S. and UK governments could have made plans. I have asked every 9/11 truther if any of them had any personal first-hand U.S. government prior knowledge information that was accepted for consideration to be used in a criminal case against George Bush in the International Criminal Court. Not a single one of them has any information that is up for consideration to be used in the ICC. So why does the 9/11 Truth Movement censor the information that I have information that was accepted for consideration for use in the International Criminal Court against George W. Bush? Answer up, 9/11 truthers. In February 2004, I began looking for a lawyer to provide me with legal representation and began contacting DoD personnel offices to have the federal resources that Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld was illegally withholding from me, and received this apology from the DoD Ombudsman Cheryl Wong Ying. I've asked every 9/11 truther if they have the rank at the Department of Defense to warrant an apology from the Ombudsman. Not one 9/11 truther has the rank at the Department of Defense to warrant an apology from the Ombudsman, not even Bob Bowman, who brags about his U.S. military rank of colonel. For you who do not know, Bob Bowman's rank is that of a uniformed member of the Defense Department, which is the lowest ranked stature in the Department of Defense, and to brag about it shows just how ignorant Democrat Bob Bowman really is. In March 2004, I went to the International Inquiry into 9/11 Phase 1 in San Francisco to meet Phil Berg and Ellen Mariani for the first time. On Saturday, when they were on stage, I talked to a guy outside of the event who was trying to sell me his tickets for the rest of the weekend, because he was upset that the event's organizers had told him that thousands of people were coming when they had only sold a couple hundred tickets, and there were only 200 or 300 people who showed up. Why does the 9/11 Truth Movement always overstate the number of people who support them? I've asked the 9/11 Truth Movement this question, but they refuse to answer. Following seeing Berg and Mariani on stage, I approached Phil Berg, who was on his way to lunch, and told him who I was. He gave me his business card and told me to call him long distance in Philadelphia. I thought this was suspicious behavior for a lawyer who had a U.S. Defense Department agent for a witness. While attending the press conference that Berg and Mariani held after lunch, he left before I could get to ask him a question. And when I spoke to Ellen Mariani, she acted like she didn't even know who I was. It was like she never even read her own lawsuit to know who her witnesses were. If she would have read her own lawsuit and then looked for the other participants from Sea Battery, she could have had the truth about U.S. government prior knowledge she says she wanted. But instead she traveled around the world collecting cash donations for Phil Berg. Ellen Mariani, if you would have just read your own lawsuit, you would have had the truthful information you claim you want. So why didn't you read your own lawsuit, Ellen Mariani? Was it more important to be the celebrity of the 9/11 Truth Movement and to collect cash donations for the 9/11 Truth Movement than to have the truth about U.S. government prior knowledge?